Hello, welcome to this UNESCO Cities of Literature event organised by Five Leaves Bookshop in Nottingham. And today we're with Nanjing City of Literature. There are 42 UNESCO Cities of Literature spread across 6 continents. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Nanjing, by our standards, it's a very large city of 9 million on the confluence of the Yellow and Yangtze River, and it was founded about 2,500 years ago, which was probably beating Nottingham by about 1,000 years. It's known for its bookshops, and I've had a look online at Libraire Avant-Garde, which operates from a building that used to be an underground car park and was previously a bomb shelter. So books win out in the end. We'll hear more about Nanjing City of Literature later. This event is being simultaneously translated as we go along. Something we've not done before, but we're very excited by. Nottingham, for those who don't know it, is by comparison a small place, 300,000 people, with its conurbation that reaches about 750,000 people. Nottingham City of Literature runs a number of projects, and unusually for cities of literature, has a focus on literacy as well as literature. The City of Literature organisation has just put online its suggestions of the best 12 Nottingham novels of all time. I was relieved to say I'd read 10 of them. 12 more are to be posted soon, and then the battle will start where we discuss which really are the best Nottingham novels. The City of Literature also has a focus on young people with a youth advisory board and is hosting the Slamovision, the International Slamovision Championship of Performance Poetry. The last winner for that was Cara Thompson from Nottingham, and I'm pleased to say that her winning entry was published by us later in a pamphlet about the Jamaican community in Nottingham. Five Leaves started as a publisher in 1995. We opened the bookshop in 2013. We still publish, but our main focus is on the bookshop. As a publisher and as a bookshop, we look out to the world. We have published books in translation from Arabic, Catalan, Yiddish, and Ladino, as well as a number of works by refugee writers. Within the bookshop, we reflect the diversity of the community in which we live. We have a strong LGBT focus, and our children's books reflect particularly the diversity of the city. We have always had a section devoted to literature and translation, and we will use this series to spur us on to stock more books in translation, including from China. This event is one of 6 events where we visit 5 places: Seattle, Quebec, Nanjing, Lviv, Jakarta, and finish back in Lviv. We, of course, send our best wishes to our friends in UNESCO City of Literature in Lviv, who are operating under the most difficult of circumstances. I was reminded this morning that we have met with Nanjing before, when a group from Nanjing came to our bookshop in 2019, where they were preparing to be a city of literature. Today, as with all of the other events, we have 2 writers, Shreya Sen-Handley from Nottingham and Ding Zhe from Nanjing. Both are also artists, and behind me is some work by Ding Zhe. It's meant to be sideways, but I'm working from home at the moment, and I could only hang it long ways. So apologies to Ding Zhe for it not being quite as he intended it, but I thought it's better hanging long ways than not hanging at all. Lila Xian will introduce Ding Zhe shortly. So turning to our writer, Shreya Sen-Handley. Like so many of our residents, she was born overseas. She was born in India. She writes for the Indian press and the British press, and she has had 3 books published in India by HarperCollins. Her first book publication, however, was a short story and something that we published, an introduction to Nottingham writers, which was part of the original UNESCO bid some years back. She writes fiction, autobiography, travel writing. Some of her work about Indian women has provoked controversy in India. She's just completed a project with Welsh opera, for which she has written libretti. I don't think she is going to sing opera today.
No.
Shame. But she is going to read from her latest book, Handle with Care. The first extract is about our hunt for the famous Durrell villas on our honeymoon in Corfu. That's her honeymoon, not our honeymoon, some time ago. And then the second excerpt later on is about Sting's appearance at the Hay Book Festival. Dingxie will also then speak, and then we'll move to questions. Please, Shreya, the platform's yours.
Thank you, Ross. So yes, because Ross has done the introduction already, I'll get straight into it. To get to a few of the villas, we had to abandon the car and walk down dense tracks, following glimmers of sunlight and our instinct for the hidden and the glorious. In an abandoned orchard, we followed a pearly glow to find a diminutive but dazzling edifice that was well worth the nettle stings, but not likely to be the Darrell snow-white villa, for how few of their extensive menagerie of guests and pets it could have held. Down a path of long grasses heading out to sea, we discovered a vibrant yellow establishment like a sunflower in a field. But we both agreed, after a cursory search, that it lacked the required je ne sais quoi to be their daffodil yellow villa. It was on our way back from this find that we decided to stop for a picnic in a sun-dappled olive grove we'd spied earlier. After a satisfying meal of fresh bread, olives, and feta-stuffed tomatoes, we decided to explore. It was then that we discovered the house concealed in the cypress trees, a house we weren't expecting because it wasn't on our map. In a patch of land humming with life, but deserted by humans, stood a faded ruby villa, large enough for a boisterous family and its many wards, but not so large that it couldn't lose itself with time and the onrush of vegetation. We circled it, standing on its vine-entwined porch, looking in through its weathered windows, but as desolate as it clearly was, it felt oddly lived in too. We sat on the porch, breathing in the tranquility of the moment and the reticent beauty of our setting. When my husband put his arm around me, I lay my head on his shoulder and a few kisses were exchanged. When he leaned in for the fifth, or thereabouts, I don't often count when kissing, we heard a noise in the house. It could have been a chair pulled back for a better look at what was outside, or a harumph, the clearing of a human throat, to indicate the undetected presence of an onlooker. We jumped, casting around to ascertain who or what it could have been. "Can you hear a goat?" my new husband hazarded, proving himself not very well acquainted with goats. I, on the other hand, had grown up in a part of Kolkata overrun with goats and knew a cloven-hoofed critter when I heard one. "Human, I think," I whispered to him as we made for our car. We had lodges in the back in the form of mouth-watering food with which we did not intend to part. Nor did we want to be arrested for trespassing or for our spate of kisses. Scrambling into the car, we were sure it felt more crowded than when we drove in, yet thought nothing further of it. Suddenly, our serene villa was quiet no longer. We heard the tread of unfamiliar footsteps in the empty kitchen, the splash of water when no one was in the pool, whispers in the garden that weren't leaves in the breeze, and on one occasion, another of those harumphs we'd heard at the apparently abandoned villa. Most of all, we were overtaken by a strong sense of being watched, though not in a lascivious way, despite the feeling that some of this observation followed us into the bedroom. It seemed as dispassionate but well-intentioned as a naturalist studying his subjects. I almost expected to hear David Attenborough's well-known voice with that relaxed but knowledgeable commentary that graced all his engrossing programs, but this time holding forth on us and our youthful and amorous activities. That was when it dawned on me who it had to be. Jerry Darrell. Who else could be so amiably interested in animal activity? Who would be haunting his old strawberry pink villa, which we'd stumbled upon just days ago, but him? And hadn't we felt like we'd been followed home from there? Who could it be but the patron saint of travelers to Corfu? In the end, whether we found the Darrell's villa in Corfu or not, we found something else for sure, something more exciting. When we returned to Nottingham, the first stirring started. Great waves of morning sickness assailed me for weeks till I took the tests that told us we were undoubtedly in the my family and other animals way. Exploring Corfu that languorous summer's week with my second husband, I had not only discovered that it was every bit as full of life as Gerald had promised, but that this life was catching. When our baby boy came along 8 months later, we did not call him Jerry, nor was his little sister joining us 18 months after called Jerry with an I. But bizarrely, as soon as they could talk, that was what they both independently decided to name their first teddies.
Thank you, Shreya. We'll now pass to Lilas Yuan, who will have a brief introduction to Nanjing and to Dingji.
好的，尊敬的 Shreya 女士，尊敬的 Ross 先生
Respected Madam
先生们、朋友们，大家好。
Shreya,
南京
Mr.
是有
Ross
2500年的
Bradshaw, thank you. Welcome you. Nanjing now is a city with a history of 1800 years. As being a city in 2019, it was awarded as the City of Literature, which is the only city of literature in China. It has about 9.4 million permanent residents. The Yangtze River, the longest river in China, stretches across Nanjing. In Nanjing, we can see the longest and largest city wall in the world, the Ming Dynasty City Wall. Nanjing is active in more than 1,000 literary societies and organizations. There are nearly 3,000 bookstores, 53 universities, and more than 1,200 libraries. In 2014, Nanjing successfully hosted the Second World Youth Olympic Games. The Phoenix Publishing Group, the largest publishing group in China, is located in Nanjing. Nanjing has profound cultural heritage and strong literary atmosphere. Writers and readers fully enjoy their life and work in Nanjing. We are full of expectations for this activity. We hope that tonight the guests can talk with each other and have a wonderful time. It is also hoped that Nanjing and Nottingham will have more closer exchanges and interactions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Lilas, are you going to now introduce Dingji?
请丁方老师介绍。好，
我来介绍一下丁杰先生。丁杰先生是中国当代著名作家和艺术家，中国作家协会的会员，也是江苏省作
Mr.
家。
Dingji is a very famous contemporary literature writer. It is the vice president of Jiangsu Association of Writers. And he himself is very distinctive and featured artist and writer. He once worked in Jiangsu and Xinjiang automatic regions, and he acts both as a writer, artist, and official. And he published more than 30 novels. Snuggling has been translated in various languages and has won 7 world-level awards. And also, the Snuggling is the bestseller in many ways and has many fans. So it's a very phenomenal novel. Snuggling is a very innovative way by using ways of romantic, modern, super realistic, and different other features and techniques in writing. His painting, as his novel, is very featured too, because it does not have a fixed meaning if you look at his painting. So it allows the wild imagination beyond the painting itself. So by using the inspiration He can transport beyond the words and paintings and give you imaginations above it. And he himself is an outstanding writer and artist, I guess. He also pays attention to detail, and his work and art and paintings has been exhibited in many overseas cities. Thank you.
下面我们请金杰老师来这个选
Now,
出一段来朗。
let's welcome Mr. Jin Jie to read several pieces from his novel.
这个诺丁汉的作家朋友啊，还有在场的这个各位文学
Distinguished experts and guests from Nottingham, I'm going to read
说意味的
the several pieces of my love novel, Snuggling.
没有一丝风，空气像一堵墙一样。
This is the one piece. One afternoon when there was not even a breeze, and the air that felt like a pile of bricks crushing my nest. I wandered through the little town, moving westwards, then further west, till I reached the big bridge across it onto the open field beyond, and followed that stretch of road I had trod for the past 6 years. The cornfield looked like a gigantic slab of smelting iron laid on the top of earth. I felt dizzy when I walked into the field. Under the leadership of the cicadas, all types of insects got together to produce a vigorous and loud buzz. Because of the few people trod the path leading to the primary school during the summer break, the path had weeds sprouting everywhere with fresh offshoots, both tall and short, some of them blossoming itty-bitty flowers. The wall of the corner talk stood strong and tightly packed. The sun slanted low towards the west, casting thousands and thousands of gold-like sparkles on the grass on the little flowers. When the flowers and grass waved under the little gentle breeze, those bright sparklings rebounded and swirled. I went further along it. I guess I'd walked along about 200 minutes, and when I was shocked, suddenly I spotted Molly. I have no idea where had appeared there. When I saw her, she was already close to me, almost right in front of me. It seems that she was coming from the school. She was on some 20 or 30 steps away from me. Molly was wearing a warm-colored sleeveless dress embroidered with a pattern of loose flower petals. I saw her against the brightness of the day, just as she was in the drawing I have made, with halos along her body. As she moved, the swing of her arms was in pace with the nimbleness of her steps, in such graceful rhythms I had never seen before. So my heart was beating faster, and suddenly the air was tense, risking her life. The cicadas raised the volumes of its cries. I stood there frozen with shock, not knowing what I do. I saw Molly smiling at me, but there was no time for me to figure out what that smile meant. At once, she dashed in my direction. After prepared for so long and stand firm when I met her, I dropped the hoe in the rices, at once turned around and ran for it. A strong warm wind hit my back like a big wave. This wave then overtook me and lifted me afloat before finally subsiding. For that brief moment I faced upward, I could see only the almost unreal blueness of the sky, and sunlight shining on the sides of a few white clouds, giving them golden outlines. Soon, Molly's figure filled my field of vision, and the back of her head hit on the soft surface of the grassy path. Around me there was a tangle of grass and fresh-colored flowers. When I was buried in a mixture of flowers and grass, the pungent smell of soil slowly mingled with the delicate fragrance of flowers and grass. Shortly after, a fresh and much strong fragrance hit my nostrils, getting stirred together with other smells. Molly was on top of me, keeping me down. That's right. After 3 years, he had finally caught up with me, knocked me to the ground, and sat astride my body.
Thank you, Ding Jie, and thank you to the interpreter in the in the background. I want to start by, I'll ask each of you a question. I'll ask a question to Shreya. I'll ask a question to Dingzhe. So firstly to Shreya, English is your second language, I think. And you write, I think, exclusively in English. At least you've never mentioned to me that you've written in anything other than English. So my question is, you're also an Indian in Britain, and you're a British citizen now of Indian descent. And I wonder whether that position, both as somebody writing in either your second language or and also writing as an outsider who can also see things from the inside, you're looking over to India, you're looking over to Britain, whether that gives you extra points, whether that makes it easier to be a writer, whether that gives you whether that puts barriers in front of you, or whether that actually opens the door.
Sure. So I'll try and answer your question in two parts. Is English my second language? It depends. I grew up bilingual, so right from the start, both English and Bengali were my languages. So the way I see it is that Bengali is my mother tongue, undoubtedly, but because, you know, in India, we have to sit for entrance exams to nurseries, and our English has to be absolutely top drawer by then. So I would say they're both my first languages. So to that extent, there is no leap to be made there for me. I don't translate in my head. It just automatically is English. But on the other hand, you're absolutely right that I do inhabit the niche of the outsider, but I feel that's an advantage and certainly not an obstacle. I also feel that I've always had that position, whether I've been in India or here, partly because even in India, I'm from a minority community in certain ways. It's that's too complicated to explain, but and I spent a lot of my childhood abroad in other Asian countries. So it has always been, and I think that's what led me to writing and to drawing and to journalism. The fact that I'm always on the outside looking in, and I'm observing, and I'm a great people watcher. And of course, as a journalist, which was my first career, if you can sort of cut them up like that into different units, you're a professional people watcher. And so are writers. And there's nothing quite like not really being part of something, to be on the margins, though not in a way that you're feeling excluded, but by choice. Well, to some extent you can get excluded if you're not part of the majority anywhere. But also it has wonderful advantages that I've found over the years. And I feel that I can look at things dispassionately and with humor. For me, humor is probably the driving force in my writing and perhaps even my art. And I think I wouldn't have that to that extent. When you're really immersed in something, when you're part of something, it's difficult to get that perspective. So I'm probably rambling. I can't remember your original question, but yes. So I think it's worked for me to be an outsider. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Can I ask Dingzhe and Dingfan about literature in China that Dingzhe writes in Mandarin, but would that be read all over China? Would it be translated into Cantonese and minority languages?
Of
course, Mandarin is the most commonly used language in China. So in Chinese version, just Chinese language. But for other foreign language, I think it's more published in other countries. So I think the year before last year, I talked with one of the Indian publishers, and they said it will be translated into Indian languages. But as far as I know, it is not officially published. I'm looking forward for its publishment. My question goes to Madam Shreya.
Sure.
My question is that you were born in India. As a watcher, how do you integrate yourself into the culture of the United Kingdom? This is the first question. And second, who is the writer that you favor the best in contemporary literature in the United Kingdom?
In India, sorry, I didn't catch the last bit.
Okay, the first question, I can hear that, and the second is that who is the writer you favor the most in United Kingdom?
Oh gosh, well, she's very sadly just passed away, Hilary Mantel. I absolutely, and it kind of answers your first question as well. I adore English history. History before the colonialism bit started. So, you know, the Plantagenets and the Thomas Cromwells and the Tudors and so on. So that really drew me to Hilary Mantel, and nobody tells that story of those times as well as she does, with her very distinctive style. Your first question was about, I was born in India, and how do I integrate into the United Kingdom, and how do I feel about it? It's a little bit like what I said to Ross, that I grew up with the English language and English literature because I think of the colonial influence in India. Certainly back when I was younger, we all grew up reading Enid Blyton, and then I read a section right now from my search for the Darrell Villas in Corfu. So we all grew up with Gerald Darrell and James Herriot and Agatha Christie and Enid Blyton. So when I came here, and Jane Austen, it didn't feel terribly alien. I had, like I've also said, always been I've lived in the world of books. So England was very real to me, very vibrant and vivid. And of course, when I came here, I found that it was a little bit different, more full Monty than Pride and Prejudice. And that was okay. That too, I embraced and I came to terms with, and I enjoy it. So I feel fully integrated in both countries.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Actually, I like your comments very much, because I think the impact of both countries actually has dismantled the barriers all across the country borders, isn't it?
I want to ask Ding Jie and Ding Fan about Chinese literature in the diaspora. There's a huge Chinese diaspora over Asia, over America, over Britain, and whether people in the diaspora read the work that is written in mainland China these days.
Yes, the diaspora, we have a special name, icon called a overseas. They rely on mainland China, the contemporary literature. It's not for the overseas reader, as you know, foreigners, but for the diaspora. So a lot of writers, yes, as you mentioned, they are in Americans and Canada. There, many of them are. Yan Geling actually is the most popular and welcomed writers in mainland China. Yes, he traveled to foreigners in many countries and for many years, but she writes her writings in Chinese, in Mandarin, and her work, her culture elements in the book relies on mainland China, and including the characters, the stories, all happen in mainland China.
Mm. So to continue on that angle, do writers who live in the diaspora, who write about their lives in the diaspora, are they read in mainland China? If somebody was to write about their life in London, would they be read in China, or is it too far a journey for people to imagine?
也有的，他就
Yes.
在大
Positive, the answer is. For example, few reader welcome his novel or her novel. For example, for these writers, they were second or the third generation of the overseas Chinese. We call them bananas, which means they look as Chinese, but actually they were, their nationalities are already foreigners. That means the language, their culture, understanding is totally isolated from that in mainland China.
Do you think that's a bad thing, that these people are just not cast adrift, but there's so little connection between the Chinese diaspora and mainland China? I ask this because my sister-in-law is from Shanghai, and she very much lives within a London Chinese or London Shanghai community. And so what's happening in London matters to her so much more, but she still goes to China from time to time, and her son is bilingual. He hopes eventually to live in China.
Yes. If he writes the stories happening in mainland China, I think that means he has very deep ties with mainland China. But if his works are related with the Americans or Canada, that means he's isolated from China. So another perspective is the political system is totally different. For example, one of these work cannot be translated. It's not possible to translate his work into Chinese, into Mandarin.
Yes.
所以就是说这个在这个大陆这个范围之内
That means in mainland China, many foreign Chinese writers are welcomed because they write stories happened in China. Maybe he's living or she is living overseas, but she still roots their stories in China. And those has a lot of readers, fans, and have very big impact. For example, Li Yan, who is a Canadian Chinese, she is such a writer. My question goes to Shreya. I have read some of your writings. One of your work is the Handle with Care, which described the journal stories, especially back to in the journey back to India. You are seeking the beautiful sceneries and other people literature about seeking for life and truth. So one of the themes of the seeking for something. So Snuggling, which is my novel, it describes someone who is looking for love, for significance. So your Handle of Care is still a journey of seeking. So I think it's more technical oriented because it records your experience. So is seeking the appropriate or very important theme for literature? And what is seeking means to a people's life? And what is your view to the proportion of life in the period of seeking, no matter for emotion, for love, or for memory?
So as I understand it, you're asking if the concept of seeking ourselves or seeking other things like identity, love, etc., whether that is the core of what I write. Yes, I guess so. I guess as writers, it's kind of innately, we all do it. It's human nature. We're all trying to find out who we are, what we're here for, what we want to do with our lives. And as writers and artists, we just work it out through the medium of words and paints and visuals. So I guess, and especially perhaps because I'm a memoir writer, even as a journalist, I'm more of an op-ed. I write opinion rather than reports. I've never really been a reporter in that sense. So I guess I'm very much about exploring my own thoughts on things. But then because I'm a journalist and also because I'm a fiction writer, sort of extending outwards from that, from personal experiences and ideas and thought, using that as the basis, as the groundwork, but taking that and trying to understand life as a whole, life as a citizen of Britain now, life as an Indian-born person, life as a human in the current scenario where everything feels so terribly unsettled. So yeah, I think certainly, yeah, like your book itself, where you're seeking, I think every book, I think all the work we do, art, the nature of art is that we're seeking something and we're seeking to understand. So I definitely say that defines my work. But in seeking myself, I think I find others, and I hope that's what my work's about, and that's why people can relate, hopefully.
I
have another question goes to Shreya. I noted your paintings.
Sorry.
You can see, I see one of your paintings, your illustrate. Yeah. I think you can see my paintings.
Yes,
there is a huge differences between our two paintings.
Yes.
In color. You see, it's all black and white. Here, very dull. But for your painting, it's very colorful, very bright. So
yes.
What occurs to me is that my tradition is China's ink and the paint drawing. As you may know, it's a tradition kind of painting. But when I understand your painting, it reminds me of the brightness and colors in the costume of India. I think it's the characters of the nationalities of India impact your painting a lot.
Yes, thank you. I hadn't given enough thought to that. That's a very interesting observation. I think partly the differences in our work is also because I'm a children's illustrator. So certainly that calls for the bright colors, but I think you're also right that my artwork, and I think my writing as well, in that it is quite a visual style, quite full of color, that I am probably just kind of expressing the Indian in me, because amongst other things, yes, I mean, India is a very vivid country, so is China, but in different ways. But also from the corner of the country I come from, Calcutta, East India, we have this huge festival in October, which has just ended there in India right now, called the Durga Puja. And behind me, that's Durga, one of my illustrations for the Welsh National Opera is about Durga. She's the goddess of knowledge and she fights darkness. And I guess I feel, and she's a multitasking goddess. So I just feel a real connection with that part of my Indian identity in the kind of the chaos, but the kind of the method in the madness, that the color that can be a bit overwhelming, but There you go. Yeah, so it can all be, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of color. It's definitely captures the Indian and India in general, in the beauty and the madness and the chaos put together.
Lovely. It's nice seeing it close up. Dingjie, do you want to talk about your art?
我不太善于这个，就是绘画的时候不太善于。
I'm not actually okay. I'm not bad using colors when I paint something. I seemed very insensitive and very scared to a certain kind of bright colors. You can see it's all black, white, green, dark green in my paintings. I think it touched me because you know that there is a traditional Chinese painting. We call it's how to say that? It's get away from the bustle and hustle from the city. So all these colorful things, we need to get away from all of them. It means that you are separating yourself from the willingness and the yearning for rights or other willingness to win, to obtain something. So it's a kind of traditional Chinese painting called ink and wash. So I use the very thin pen, very tough and strong and simple way to draw the outline of my painting. I think it's very beautiful. I think it's a kind of thoughts, very deep thoughts and meditation. In my eyes, I think nothing means everything. No color means every color, such as the sunshine. You see only one color of sunshine, but actually, when you look at in the microscope, you can see millions. So I use the very simple way to express the strongest emotions. I even can see the diversities and every possibilities in single color. I don't know whether I managed to do this or not, but I'm trying. And Mr. Ding Fan, can you make some comments on my painting? He is a national known literature writers and very famous makers. And he can have even deeper thoughts on my painting. Actually, I'm a layman on painting, to be honest. However, I know something about Chinese traditional painting. Ding Jie's painting is featured by Chinese tradition ink and wash painting. And he was influenced by this kind of painting a lot. And this ink and wash painting has flourished in Tang Dynasty in a great point, Mr. Wang Wei. Wang Wei always used the single color to illustrate the rich meaning with different perspective. And even some of these connotations and implications are beyond words. That is to nourish a certain emotions in this simplest ways of painting. As you can see the structure or the things, Ding Jie likes to draw fish. So white fish is the most commonly used characters in his painting. I want Mr. Ding Jie to explain it. But for me, I like his painting. I think recently has drawn many paintings with modern ways, which is by using a very thin pen to draw a certain picture. You can see from his painters, it's like the features, like we see, there is a lot of shapes, a lot of circles, squares, such as the drawings from Picasso. So I once asked him, he may spend dozens of hours to finish it. First, you need to draw the outline in a very careful way. I hope that he can put forward more diversified versions of painting and can interact with his novel, and which shows the mix of realistic, romantic, and super realistic flavor. And this kind of mixture may possibly translate the meanings and emotions, no matter it's a foreigner or a Chinese. My question goes to Mr. Ding Jie. Why you have a special favor on fish? Okay, I can answer the question. My childhood was spent in rural areas. And in my hometown, in front of my house, there is a little river, which is even transparent, with fish in it, swimming merrily. I think the fish is very beautiful for its shape, because it's naked. It doesn't wear anything. The second is it's free, because there is no obstacle under the water. So I think fish enjoys both freedom and beauty. And another thing is that the fish, as you can see, it never attacked something, attacked some creatures even. So I have a special feelings for fish. When I have an impulse to draw, I want to fish. I want to paint the fish because I think it symbolizes the life that I'm earning for. One of my friends mentioned that fish is ancestors of human beings because human evolves from the fish or the water creatures. I'm very excited to hear this saying because I think painting fish is painting human and even painting the life. So for me, I think when I'm drawing the fish, I paint myself. As you can see, when you look at my paintings, the fish seems it is moving in a certain movement. Yeah, it doesn't stand there still or just lying there. Even some fish are very aggressive, and you can see there is a certain gestures even from the fish, and there are certain kind of layout or space for the fish to swim. So for me, by using this kind of space, I see the life itself can show its maximum willingness to obtain the freedom, and it can have some imaginative space too. So it gave me a kind of smoothness and ever-going of my life. So that's the reason for my favor in fish. Okay, I want to add something. Mr. Ding Jie has mentioned the 3 reasons, out of which one reason is fish is yearning for freedom in the water. But when the fish goes ashore, it loses everything, including freedom. And for this kind of metaphor, I think I personally understand as follows. I hope that Mr. Ding Jie can combine human beings with fish And this is a fish body with a human face. Another painting is a lot of fish. You can see, but the fish is a woman's body with a woman's back. So I think that the integration of a human being and a fish can better explicitly show what is the relations or ties between human beings and fish. I think by using this kind of integration can improve the levels of his paintings a lot.
Dingzhe sent us copies of some of the paintings, such as the one behind me. And when I was unrolling them in the bookshop, there was a Caribbean artist there, just by complete chance. She just happened to be in the shop. And she started talking briefly about relating your work. She didn't know you were Chinese. She could relate the work that you did to the work that she's aware of as a Caribbean artist very much. It was a really nice moment because it was the first time I'd seen the paintings as I was unrolling them, and there was an artist in front of me, just happened to be in the shop, and she absolutely loved your work.
谢谢谢谢。好，你这个画就是
Thank you very much.
这个印象派的画是一个
Another,
肯定是被
I think that
印象派。
your paintings is more related with the kind of painting styles, which is more imaginative. Yes, that's why I want to hear more foreign friends to make comments on my painting. I like the arts from the Western countries. Although I'm a native Chinese, but I think the Western countries have many forms of arts and expressions. And that's why I'm very impressed by the Western arts histories and representative artists. So I'm looking forward more friends from the overseas can make more comments on my painting. And I want Mr. Rose's Bradshaw and Madam Shreya Sen-Handley can make more comments to my painting. Thank you.
Well, we will be displaying them in the shop, and we will feed back any comments. Unfortunately, time is moving on, so we probably need to move towards the end. We want Shreya and Dingzhe to read another piece of their work, and then we'll close. So I don't know who wants to go first. I got the order wrong the last time. Dingzhe, do you want to start here?
啊，听施瑞雅这个演示线头吧。
Shreya.
Okay, I don't mind. I don't mind either way. Right. Okay. So this extract is also from my book, my new book, Handle with Care, which is a travel memoir published earlier this year. And this brief section is from my chapter on Heian Wai and Rockstar Sting's appearance at their book festival. 14 years ago, Sting had been about to enter the big top to talk about his new book, Broken Music, when he'd stopped a moment to run his eyes over the crowd waiting to hear him. In my early 30s and still alive to such things, I noticed he was taller and handsomer than I'd expected. With the sun falling upon it, his hair seemed spun from gold, and without the bald patch that later became so apparent. His broad shoulders looked capable of heroically bearing the world's troubles, or at least several women at a time. His autobiography would suggest he'd tried both. And his piercing blue gaze was on me. We gazed at each other for what seemed like an eternity, till a guard opened a side gate for him and the connection snapped. It was then that I realized there was a very large ketchup stain down my front. Had he thought I was dying? Did he not think to try and save me with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, an unusual staunch though that might seem for blood loss? I was a bit miffed, and with his book turning out to be as beautifully written as it was self-absorbed, I said to myself, there, you see, not a thought for anyone other than himself, not even when they're dying. And it was a good few months before he was allowed back into my good books again.
Thank you, Shreya.
Thank you.
下面请这个我们的主持人帮我这个。
Now let's invite the host to write the novel of Ding Jie. Mali lowered her gaze and looked at my arms, then her cup landed on my face. At once, she blushed. Beads of sweat hung on to her face before dribbling in a snap moment on my face, on my neck, flat tiny flowers of sweat wherever they landed. At that moment, I made out vividly and for the first time Molly's face. I saw it bright and clear, saw some of her lively freckles going all the way around her small and delicate nostrils. I saw her thin and flat lips just barely parted, so as to reveal a tiny fraction of her teeth's brightness. Her eyelashes quivered times like a bird that was flapping its wings and suddenly halted them mid-flight. Her eyes seemed to hollow. Many things flowed from her gaze, however. Those things were so bright, glistening unceasingly in the trembling of her eyelashes. The feeling I had was that those bright things would soon take flight. At this moment, Molly squirmed very gently, very hesitantly, as though she wanted to break free from my arms, but was at the same time extremely reluctant to let go of her hold on me. A gentle breeze swept on the corner fields, causing the long gap in between the fields to sway. The moment to brace flower between I and Molly, I felt my body was burning and sometimes boundless.
Thank you. Lilas, do you want to say anything now?
Yes. 那我们现在就要结束了吧？OK， 那 Thank you Ross， Thank you， 对 ，Thank you Ross，Thank you Shreya， Thank you Five Leaves colleagues, and thank you passionate readers. This event is a beautiful encounter. We all see the passion of literature in connecting writers and readers. Literature serves us in promoting mutual understanding. It will make a land for exchanges between Nanjing and Nottingham. It's a good start for our citizens. We hope it will become a lasting project. Looking forward to visiting more writers, varied works, and amazing stories. Thank you again. See you next time. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. I think we'll close now. Thank you to Ding Fan, Ding Jie, Lilas, and particularly to the interpreters in the background. It's very difficult to do simultaneous interpretation, so I want to thank the interpreter who's been doing that. Thank Shreya from Nottingham.
Thank you.
And thank our background team of Simon, who's done the technical work, and Simon Griffiths, and Pippa Hennessy, who set up the whole project. That's it now. Thank you for attending.